The struggle with the self is an inseparable part of human material and spiritual development. Looking at the dynamics of psychological problems and suicide statistics in the modern world, it is evident that these negative trends are most prevalent in socially advanced societies. Therefore, improvement in material life is not necessarily a sign of progress and advancement. Development must also be conditioned by spiritual factors. Unfortunately, in modern times, societies tend to choose either material or spiritual pathways rather than integrating both, or end up deprived of both. This issue primarily arises from neglecting the role of the struggle with the self in our worldview. Since we have not understood the essence of this struggle with the self, we tend to overlook its importance. Struggle with the self should not imply asceticism. Humans are not merely biological beings. Therefore, the struggle with the self is not a biological phenomenon. Simply going against our natural needs does not equate to inner struggle. The struggle with nafs is about eliminating spiritual deficiencies, not limiting material resources. The physical body and material world are great trusts given to us by God and serve as primary means to reach Him. Worldliness and self-interest are seeing material life as an end, not as a means. Thus, wealth does not imply worldliness, nor does poverty necessarily mean spirituality. The struggle with ego happens in the human spirit when yielding positive results qualitatively enhances both material and spiritual life. Islam has never considered asceticism as a value. Zuhd is not about neglecting materialism, but viewing it as a tool. Spirituality should not be measured by the modesty of their means. The Holy Quran says about the human soul, "Then He fashioned him and breathed into him of His soul. He granted you hearing, sight, and intellect, yet little it is that you give thanks." Surah As-Sajdah 32:9. The Quran reveals human identity in this verse, a bearer of divine spirit. According to the Quran, humans are born with an intrinsic sense of spirituality. Having a soul itself indicates connection with the spiritual realm. Spirituality exists in humans a priori. Humans are essentially beautiful beings. Allah created them so. The purpose of life is to preserve and nurture this spiritual beauty and purity. This is the essence of the struggle with the self. That is, in Islam, spiritual evolution isn't about acquiring goodness from outside, but about flourishing the inner beauty. The Quran states about this, "And by the soul, and the one who made it well, then inspired it with its evil and piety, success is really attained by him who purifies it." Ash-Shams 91:7-9. God, when speaking of the human soul, declares that He has inspired it with knowledge of sin and righteousness, good and evil. Humans, therefore, are naturally aware of good and evil. Humans are born with moral values. Therefore, they are capable of struggling with nafs. The outcome of this struggle is salvation, or, in other words, happiness. The verse shows that achieving success in life, prosperity, and free living is through this struggle with one's inner desires. This is why Islam views all matters from the perspective of spiritual purification. Whether it's creed, ethics, or rulings, they are built on the foundation of struggling with ego and aimed at spiritual purification. God has sown seeds of virtue in the human spirit and assigned the task of sprouting those seeds to create paradise in this world. Humans start producing virtues with the raw material of virtue given by God. What is the main factor that produces virtue? Is it knowledge or deed? No. Allah likens some scholars in the Quran to a donkey laden with books, meaning knowledge itself cannot give salvation to humans unless it's tied to a certain value. If action were the factor of growth, then ants, with their constant work, would be the most virtuous beings. Yet, they experience no change in their inner nature. Both action and knowledge bring about change only when connected to the struggle with the self. This is the only path. To say no to selfish desires, the sole way to evolution. The struggle with ego should not be one of the activities in our life, but should be the only occupation. But who can help humans in the struggle with nafs? About this in the next episode.